So, in learning more about Latinx culture for our Module 3, and specifically for the discussion board, the role of patriarchy, religion, and fatalism is actually rather intertwined and kind of broad. So, starting with patriarchy, it actually on page 276 in our text, it speaks about machismo or machismo. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But very much the male dominated role in culture. So this is that, the men are very much encouraged to be adventurous and to take risk and to go out into the world, whereas women are groomed more so for motherhood and taking care of the home and are far more sheltered. And so just the difference in how males and females are raised and cultured within the Latinx community, and how big of an impact that can have in serving that demographic, especially. That leads into some of the spiritualism and religion that they have. So by and large, most of the Latinx community identifies amongst the Roman Catholic community. But something that really separates them as very different, because I myself, I think, Christianity, and I think everything being very similar, even if you are of a Roman Catholic or instead of a Protestant denomination. And the reality is actually the Latinx community specifically tends to embrace a very spiritual interpretation of Christianity. And so while many, I would say, kind of American Christians or Protestant Christians tend to rely a little bit more on the kind of the black and white rules, the legalism, the more tangible things within biblical context. What is very unique to the Latinx community is that they are very open to the spiritual aspect. So that is things that are not seen, things that are unexplainable, the belief of spiritual embodiment and spirits, and so that has huge impact on that community, which is very, very unique, and also very, very at least in my case, very different from my raising. So something I have to be very conscientious of, especially when providing services to, because it's something I can naturally be dismissive of. So good things to be aware of for sure. And then the fatalism aspect of this community. So something that is super unique and kind of difficult for me as a social work candidate, because I'm very much in the mentality of something can always be fixed, and something there's something we can do for the betterment of a situation. We can grow from this. We're never at the end, or only at the end unless you decide it's the end. And so something within the Latinx community that I was very unaware of until reading this chapter is the fatalism that's involved. And specifically, there is this sentence that got me, and it says, and it's on page 278 of our text, and it's such an orientation or is psychologically related to a kind of fatalism, and particularly common in peoples who suffer from economic deprivation and powerlessness and find themselves at the whim and mercy of those with more power. So especially looking at just demographics and, I think of the rural communities that are in Latin America and South America, and it is incredible, the poverty levels. So it kind of makes sense that fatalism would be an aspect. and kind of just resigning yourself to things being what they are rather than there being resources, because that in and of itself is a kind of privileged mindset. So yeah, interesting things that I wouldn't have thought would impact a whole entire culture. I would have thought would have been, I guess, based more on an individual kind of basis or perspective. But yeah, so good things to learn. Thanks so much.